because I really want to make sure we emphasize some of the points that we talked about early in the year, but they kind of get magnified now a little bit in the postseason because everything gets taken up a notch or two as far as intensity, and so I just kind of want to reiterate some of the things we've been focusing on all year. So first of all is our pre-pitch routine, and recalling that most of our game is downtime. Okay, and I think that we've done a pretty good job throughout the course of the year of maximizing that downtime and trying to think about the different things that can happen during the downtime of the game. Remember, it's 8 to 12 minutes of actual game action for about a 2.5 hour game. Okay, so that leaves a ton of downtime for us, and what we do with that in the postseason can make the difference sometimes between advancing and going home, season being over. So. Always make sure we're recognizing the out-inning runner situation. We've had a handful of instances here over the last few weeks where guys have been failing on this one, the number of outs. Make sure that's paramount, okay? So I give you the number of outs from third base all the time. Okay? I'm constantly giving you the number of outs. Okay, make sure that gets ingrained in your head. Make sure you know and understand what that means for your situation, Coach. Can you get him? Also, we want to determine any possible plays that might happen or likely plays that could happen. First and thirds, for instance, make sure we're constantly thinking what are different plays teams could be running first and thirds. They might run walk-off, okay? So what are responsibilities in walk-off? If you're a pitcher, responsibility is what as soon as you hear step off, you step off the back of the rubber, freeze the runner at third, okay? Turn, get the ball to the second baseman. Guys on the bench, okay, especially first and thirds, there's a number of different things that can happen. We need your help communicating those things. We need your help on walk-off. Remember, that's step off, verbal. We need your help on straight steal. We need your help on delayed steal. Middle infielders have been doing a good job of pinching, and so that really hasn't come into play much this year. But just make sure guys on the bench, guys in the field, make sure we're communicating those situations, because what you'll find is, as you get into the postseason, teams tend to try to get trickier. Instead of just playing baseball, one of the things you'll see is that coaches, teams, they want to push buttons. They want to run squeezes. They want to run walk-offs. They want to run first and third, delay steals. They want to do those things. One of those plays pretty much won us a sectional a couple of years ago. We were playing, and we were up by 1 run. And they had a runner on second and third, and they ran a suicide squeeze. Our pitcher recognized it because we talked. We were verbal early. Pitcher delivered a high inside strike. We ended up getting the runner at third. Then instead of second and third with nobody out, it was runner on second with 1 out. I think we went strike up, pop up to finish the inning, and got out of a really sticky situation. Okay, so though the different types of possible plays that can happen, you're going to see more of them in the postseason than you do in the regular season. Okay, teams will try those different things in the postseason. So pre-pitch routine, make sure we're determining those different plays that might happen, especially when we're in first and third situations. Always check the wind, weather. One of the things that we're going to see at Hampshire, right fielders especially, 4 o'clock game time, that sun is going to be high, and then as the game continues, it's going to drop, it's going to drop, it's going to drop, it's going to drop, and it drops directly behind home plate, okay, for right fielders. So, Mike, you've got to make sure that, or whoever's in right needs to make sure that we're constantly looking, okay, glove up first, make sure that we understand where the sun is, because you don't want your season to be determined by losing a baseball in the sun. Okay, and on that field, it's really, really definitely possible for that to happen. So, pre-pitch outfielders, if it's a sunny day, make sure we keep those in mind. Again, make sure that we play the game 1 pitch at a time. Really difficult to do in the postseason. Okay, because again, the pressure goes up. Okay, and guys who've been there, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. We've got a couple guys who were with us in 2012, and we made the run to the Final 8. Okay, and you guys know what that was like through the regionals and sectionals. Okay, the pressure goes up. It's a different game. Okay, it seems like a totally different game. But what we need to do is we need to make every pitch in the postseason the exact same as any pitch in a non-conference game during the season. It should all be the same. Okay, whether you've got runner on second and 2 outs, down 1 in the 7th inning, or whether you're in a non-conference game in the middle of April, every pitch should be exactly the same. So we think about what can we do about the previous pitch? Nothing, it's done. Okay? What can you do about the next inning that's coming up? Nothing, it's done. Or it's not happened yet, we can't get there. Okay, so all we can focus on is the present, okay, live and play in the moment. And that's how teams make good runs in the postseason. They don't worry about, like, you see the brackets online and stuff, but they don't worry about who they could play in 2 games, okay, because they know that to get there you have to play 1 pitch at a time. Okay, so the only thing we're worried about is pitch 1 against Wheaton Academy, because that's all we can control. Pitch 1, then pitch 2, then pitch 3, and so on. Okay, so make sure that we are playing in the moment. Calls get magnified by umpires in the postseason. You cannot let that kind of thing affect you. You absolutely can't. Okay, because when in a non-conference game or even a conference game during the season, fastball 5 inches outside for strike 1, and you have a negative reaction to it, and it takes you out of your at-bat. Okay, that probably goes unnoticed by most people. You might recognize it, that it took you out of that at-bat. I might recognize that it took you out of that at-bat, but most of the time that's going to go unnoticed. If you are in the postseason and you let that bad call, that 5 inches outside, if you let that determine the rest of your at-bat, again, those things get magnified. So playing 1 pitch at a time, bad call, you cannot let it affect your next pitch. Bad performance, you cannot let it affect your next pitch. Okay, you boot a ball in the infield, you cannot let that affect your next pitch. You give up a home run on the mound, it's done, it's over. You can't get it back, move on. Okay, so make sure that we're playing in the moment. And again, that's why I wanted to go through this with you guys one more time, just to re-emphasize those types of things. Don't be concerned with external factors. Who's at the game, how many people are there. Again, guys who've been through the postseason, crowds get bigger. The farther you get, crowds get bigger. Then you get on a big field, then you get lights, okay, and it's all the same. It's still 60 feet 6 inches, it's still 90 feet, and you can't concern yourself with those external things, okay. Don't let your ego get in the way of your success. If you take an 0 for 2 and 0 for 3 in the first game and we advance, you can't worry about that 0 for 2, 0 for 4. You boot 2 balls in the infield, you misread a ball in the outfield. You can't let that affect you. Okay, so you have to play in the moment, play 1 pitch at a time. Okay, you also cannot let past successes give us a false sense of security. So I don't know if we're going to see any teams that we've played and beat this year. It doesn't look like it, but you can't look at Wheaton Academy and say, oh, they're 12 and 14 or whatever the case is. And you can't look at that and say, well, then we should beat them because we're 19 and 11. That has nothing to do with it. It has to do with who shows up to play on that day, and that's it. All right, so you can't get a false sense of security based on what's happened in the past. If you get on a little run and you run into a team, because you might run into a team in the sectionals, and you look at their record. This happened to us in 2009. We get to the sectionals, we've got 25 wins. We're playing a team in the sectionals with 10 wins. 10 wins all year in the sectional championship game. Okay, and we ended up losing that game. Did we lose that game because we looked at them and said, oh, they have 10 wins, no problem? I don't know. But if you get to that point, it doesn't matter who has 10 wins. It doesn't matter who has 22 wins. It doesn't matter who has 1 win. It doesn't matter any of that. What matters is that you're playing against another team, and you've got to compete and beat them. Okay, so we can't let those external factors play into it. Ways that we can fail to play 1 pitch at a time, worrying about statistics. We post our stats that are important to us. We don't really, we look some at other things, but the ones that are important to us right now are posted down in the locker room. Quality at-bats, those types of things. Those are posted in the locker room and updated. Worrying about winning and losing, this is really tough to do in the postseason because you fall down 3-0, 4-0 early on in a postseason game. Okay? And then the reality starts to hit that if we don't, because if you fall down 3-0 in a regular season game and you don't come back from it, okay, we move on to the next day. You fall down that way in a postseason game, and there is no next day. But if you're worrying about winning and losing, if you're thinking about those things, or on the flip side, if you're up, say, 2 or 3 runs late in the game, and you start thinking about, we're going to win this game, we've got this, that's when things slip away. So either side of the coin, you're going to be in both situations at some point here. You're going to be down, and you're going to be up. Okay? It's going to happen. One of those two things is going to happen, and you've got to react appropriately. If you start thinking down the road in either of those scenarios, we're in trouble. Okay? So it's got to be one pitch at a time, play in the moment. And again, dwelling on past failures and resting on past successes. Okay? Things that we need to do today in practice. We need to make sure that we have a good mental approach, and obviously we talk. We've had a pretty good mental approach in practice all year, but today we're going to see reps at a few of the different situations, first and thirds, bunt defenses. We're going to see some of those game situations again one more time today, and we don't want to spend tons and tons of time on them because we're not learning them. We want to execute them. We want to execute them properly. Okay, so make sure we treat every rep like it's special. You're not going to get hundreds of reps at bunt defense today. You're not going to get hundreds of reps at first and thirds today. Okay, so treat every rep special. And then all right, this will come into play. Umpires. It always does in the postseason. Okay, they'll make a good call in your favor. They'll make a bad call against you. They're human beings just like the rest of us. We can't control them. Okay, we have to move on. Sometimes they're not perfect. Sometimes they're not even good. You might think that you get into the postseason, you get better officials. Not necessarily the case. You can't let them affect you. The umpires cannot affect you. They're totally out of your control. And I still believe we get more calls because of positive attitude. Last Saturday, as we're leaving the field, we got a really great compliment from those 2 umpires that said, you guys are on an absolute class program. Your kids act and behave well. And you know what? When umpires think that of us, and there's a borderline call, and they think that we're classy and that we play the game hard, we play the game the right way, I'm not saying that they make conscious decisions, but subconsciously, it might help us in those situations. And in close postseason games, we'll take any help we can get. Okay, so we probably get more calls because of being positive and staying away from umpires. Brian does a good job with this kid to know umpires. They're going to make mistakes. That's okay. We just play our game and move on. All right. Again, you're going to fail. You're going to fail in the postseason. Okay. We're looking at a small sample size now in postseason. So if you take an 0 for 4, an 0 for 5, or on the flip side a 4 for 4, it's not the be-all, end-all of what you are as a baseball player, what we are as a baseball team. Okay, so even the best players in Major League Baseball, as we know, they make outs about 60% of the times. Okay, so just make sure we handle failure correctly. All right, going forward in the postseason, handle failure correctly. Things we can do. Okay, we hear all the time, next pitch. We hear next pitch, next pitch, next pitch. We hear control what you can control. And then your opponent is also another thing that's out of your control. You might show up someday down the road here if we make a long run, and we might face a guy who's 6'4", throwing low 90s. You can't control that. Go out and compete, go out and battle, do your best, okay? And then offensively, we know